All right, so I got to tell you, the press is so out of touch. This is from the New York Times. Tucker Carlson turns a Christian presidential forum into a Putin showcase. Jesus is out, Vladimir Putin is in. Did you hear that from any candidate or anything like that from anyone on stage at the summit Friday, Stu? Anyone?
Of course not. No, I did not hear that.
Right. In fact, everybody led with who was anti-war. I don't like Putin. Putin's not a good guy, but I don't think, the Ukrainian president is really a good guy either. And I went as far as saying, and I don't think at this time we're on the right side. We're the good guys. So I don't want to send my kids to a war where I can't identify the good guy. No. But they made it sound like it was nothing but a rah-rah for President Putin, which it wasn't. I'm going to get into some of those things here in a second, but I really wanted to spend some time on Tucker Carlson because we spent a couple of days with Tucker Carlson, and there is something happening, and this should give you great, great, great hope. He said a few months ago, he's Episcopalian, and he was so funny when he was telling it. He's like, I didn't even know there was a Bible. I'm an Episcopalian. I mean, we don't use that. Whatever. And he said, so I started reading it. He said, I just had the feeling a few months ago that I should start reading it. He said, so I finished the New Testament. And he said, that's amazing. The way he was telling it is so funny when somebody who has actually read it and is interested in reading it, all of the things that they find, that they discover, he's like, this is the greatest. It's such a great story. Why are we hiding this? And then he started on the Old Testament, and he is in Leviticus now, which is oh so fun, but he's actually enjoying it. In talking to him over a few days, I just want you to know God is using him. There is something different about Tucker Carlson. And we were not the best of friends 10 years ago. We didn't really know each other. We respected each other for what we had done, but we disagreed on a lot of stuff. And vehemently 10 years ago on a lot of stuff. That has changed. And I think it became because I started really watching him then on Fox News. He started really listening to me, and we heard the core principles behind what we believe. And God is using him. He has moved on him greatly. Please add Tucker to your prayers. Something really good is going to come of what Tucker is doing, I think. He gets it, unlike, let's say, I met with 4 people in the last 3 weeks. And I've met probably 15,000 people. And I've met with 4 that I think absolutely 100% get it. They know it from all of its angles. Tucker is one of them. He was very, very clear on things when he was asking, I think it was Nikki Haley. He said, hey, did we blow up the Nord Stream? That's something that I would ask. But I wondered as he asked it, if I were Nikki Haley, if I would answer that as a presidential candidate, just because of the ramifications of that as a presidential candidate. So I asked Tucker on this. Here's what he said in our one-on-one interview. Cut one. You said something that I absolutely believe, and it is crazy to say it now. I think we absolutely blew up the Nord Stream pipeline.
Well, of course we did.
Yeah, absolutely did.
Well, yeah, and I think it's a big deal. I mean, on many levels, it was an environmental catastrophe. I mean, like a profound environmental catastrophe. It was also an act of vandalism, which I'm against. You should build things, not destroy them.
Yeah.
It was also an attack on infrastructure And more than anything, it was an attack on our closest NATO ally, Germany, which used that pipeline to fund its entire manufacturing center. We just attacked our ally.
I know.
This is insane behavior. And I don't know why no one's been held accountable. Yes, we did it, whether it was through Poland or Norway. A NATO nation did it with our assistance and approval. And like everyone knows it and everyone's afraid to say so. Why? I don't know why.
Can you say that?
I just did.
Well, no, but I mean,
I'm unemployed. I can say whatever I want.
I mean, what are the ramifications of? Thank God that Russia has not retaliated. This is the worst act of war I have ever seen us make. Right? So,
and it's crazy. It's the kind of like late stage hubris on display with people.
It's all of it.
It really is. Like, I'm God. I can do whatever I want. There are no consequences. The rules don't apply to me. And when you adopt that attitude, when there's no humility at all or long-term thinking, this is, people who don't have like a stake in the future, like 80-year-old presidents, they just don't care. And when they start to behave like that, you can actually wreck the whole thing. You can take a country down doing stuff like that, in my opinion.
I talked to him about the media, completely determined to suppress the truth. Listen. And I really thought, Tucker, and I don't know if there was a turning point with you. There was with me when I realized, oh my gosh, none of these people in the media actually care or are intellectually curious at all. They're just typing away, doing their thing, reading a prompter. Nobody is actually, because I really thought if I could make the case, which you did, every night you were making a great solid case. And if you are intellectually curious and you disagree, you go, well, that can't be right. Let me look it up. Let's do some investigative work on what he just said. They don't do that. And that shocked me. But then you have to wonder why. So it's like, no one in Washington or in the media is ever outraged by a lie. So I can come out here and tell the most preposterous lies, say the most lunatic things. Climate, you're driving a Suburban is causing more hurricanes in Florida. Well, they say that every fall. Right.
And it's like insane. There's no evidence that that's true. There's a ton that's evidence that's not true. Nobody cares. But when you say something true, that's actually true, deeply true, people become hysterical and call for your murder, and certainly call for your deplatforming. So then, what conclusion do you reach? The media are completely determined to suppress the truth things that matter. That's kind of why they exist. They are the gatekeepers that prevent people from saying out loud the truest things.
Cut 3. Here's Tucker on what he saw at the summit and the candidates that I found surprising. When you got up this morning, did you imagine that you would see not one, but 2 presidential candidates light themselves on fire in front of you?
When I get up this morning, as every morning when I wake up, I don't imagine anything.
Right.
I haven't had a drink in 21 years, and every single morning I wake up hungover. I feel like I've had a quart of Stoli and a 6-pack of some rotten beer. I just feel horrible in the morning, every morning. And so I put my pants on, I shuffled downstairs and got coffee, and so I didn't think about it at all until I was seated across from Senator Scott, who was the first. And I really like them all. Like, politicians are super charming. Like, they're good with people. That's why they're in this business. So I like all of them. But no, I do think that Republican voters or the system controlled by the Republican Party doesn't ask a lot of its candidates. It's like enough to repeat certain bumper stickers from the 80s, peace through strength, lower taxes, whatever.
Right.
I'm for all that, by the way. But they don't, no one ever gets pushed very hard.
Right.
And so it doesn't take much. I was certainly not acting out of hostility, but if you're just like, well, what do you mean? Get into the question. And then people say, oh, you're so mean. Really? You're trying to run my country.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I live here. I have 4 children. I can't go anywhere. Like, what do you mean? You're trying to run the country and you're mad that I'm trying to get you to be more precise about your answers that you should have memorized already?
Right.
Because you're presuming to represent me?
Last cut. This is Tucker in my special on BlazeTV. You can watch it. It's I think it's just over an hour. Tucker and I just having a one-on-one. He went on to talk about Mike Pence, what he was most surprised about with Mike Pence. Listen to this.
The Mike Pence religious freedom stuff, I have to say, spun me up. It did. You can't be like, well, I'm for religious freedom, except for like priests who say things the government disagrees with, they can be arrested. Huh? And it'd be fine if it was almost any. And I'm holding him to an unfair standard. But if you hold yourself up as a Christian leader who's in favor of religious freedom, well, then you kind of have to defend religious freedom, whether it's popular or not.
It's not. No freedom. Nobody has to defend my right to say chocolate's delicious.
Yeah.
Okay. If it's popular, you have to, and I don't think even our side understands that. I was, when Bill Maher said, I think the Saudi or the hijackers were braver than our fighter pilots. I disagreed with that 100%.
Me too.
But when ABC fired him, I stood up for him and said, what part of politically incorrect don't you understand?
Make sure you go to BlazeMediaSummit.com. BlazeMediaSummit.com. You can see the whole summit. It is so well worth it when you're watching. If you're looking for the right candidate, I think this is the best format I've ever seen, and I've heard that everywhere, including social media and in person. Everybody was like, "I've been to these things before." I mean, I'll be honest with you. Ricky said, would you please not be a grump? She's my executive television producer. She said, would you please not be a total grump, when you get on the air? And I'm like, no, I just want you to know I don't want to be here. This is the last place anyone should want to be on a Friday, spending all day with a bunch of politicians listening to them campaign. But I'm a professional. But I actually, by the end of the day, had really enjoyed it because I learned so much. Make sure you go to BlazeMediaSummit.com and watch it. And Blaze TV also has the Tucker Carlson interview with me. You can join now. Just use the promo code SUMMIT and get $30 off.